And I literally thought of the run across America, and I decided less than 10 minutes to do it. Like it was not like, I tell you, like, I don't think about things. Like if I feel some way about something, I'm doing it and I'm going all in. And then like I called my buddies, and I'm talking to Dev, and Dev was the guy who gives me ideas. Like, yo, like what if you do it? What if you do it with a 15-pound weighted vest? And he's like, if no one's done it before, like you got to do it. And we start like researching and like finding, and like we can't find anyone that's done it before, right? So we literally talked about it, and just we're like, yeah, this is what we're doing.
Welcome visionaries, dreamers, and trailblazers to the Casually Ambitious podcast. I'm your host, Chase Price, and I am thrilled to embark on this journey with you. Here, we dive deep into the realms of wellness, entrepreneurship, and mindset. Let's build a life we love while loving the life we live. The adventure to a more mindful, purposeful, and casually ambitious life starts now. My guy.
Yo, what's good, bro?
How we doing, brother?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Doing well, man. Dude, the setup looks good. You got a nice crispy camera too. I'm always like just waiting to see what the setup is. Some people are on their phone. Some people have no idea what's going on. So you're looking good, bro.
I appreciate it, man. I'm using the Osmo, man. I don't know if you have that yet, but the pod.
I do, but I've never thought about using it for the pod.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I just tried it out one day, and it looks super crisp.
So how do you have it set up? You have it linked obviously to the computer. Like, how do you set that up?
Yeah, it's just USB-C to USB-C, because I'm using a MacBook. So then I just plugged it in, and I didn't even know if it was going to work one day. And then I just used it, and then I've just been using it to record videos and everything. So I'm like, it works.
Nice, bro. Nice. Yeah, that's my favorite little piece of equipment that I have, period. It was like $500-$600, but everybody who asked me what camera I should get, I'm like, Osmo, dude, Osmo.
Worth it, bro. Worth it, 100%.
Yeah, especially doing something like you were doing, going across and like not having a whole big setup. Just there's so much to be said for like being able to have somebody run next to you with an Osmo, or like just pull it out really quick and get some selfie content. Like it's literally perfect.
No, 100%. And even the news stations like that were coming out and filming, there was news stations that were using the Osmo.
No shit.
Crazy. And they were like, yeah,
shit.
We got rid of our like thousands and thousands of dollar rigs, and we just use this.
No shit.
I'm like, that's crazy.
Wild. Cool, brother. Well, I want to welcome the homie Andrew Linder to the pod. We have never connected. It's been a long time coming, brother. I'm excited to have you on. Welcome to the Casually Ambitious podcast, where we're a little bit ambitious and a lot of bit casual. But there's nothing casual about you, Andrew. You just recently this year ran across America, pier to park, baby. And we're going to get into a lot of that. And you did it with a 15-pound weighted vest. Running across America was not enough for you. You decided to add the vest. Wild. So let's just kind of start there. We'll get into logistics, but I have just some initial questions for a little bit of context for the audience when we dive in. How long did it take you to run across America?
It took 79 days.
79 days. Holy shit. And so what was the original target? How many days did you think it was going to take? And then what did that look like for, obviously things are going to happen. Things are going to change along the way.
Yeah. So we wanted to get it done in under 80 days. And for this event, having a charity behind it, we wanted to make sure that the last day, we wanted a lot of people to be able to come out, and we really just picked a Saturday. I don't really think too much into things. I kind of just like look at it like, okay, what can we do here, and make it happen. So I was thinking I could do around 40 miles a day running, and that's what it came out to. So I gave myself some wiggle room early on. We were running, a little bit over 40 miles just so I could have. I knew bad days were going to come. And they did. So that was really the goal. And, shout out to my crew, because they're the guys who kept me on track, on all the tough days. So we were able to hit our goal. The goal was always to finish on May 18th. And that's what we did.
Beautiful. Yeah, we'll get into some of the darker days and the harder times and the crew and all that good stuff here shortly. What did it come to about on average per day that you ended up hitting?
It's just under 40 miles, like 39 and 3/4 of a mile.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. Have you always been a big runner? Was this something just in the last year you were like, okay, time to crank it up a little bit, or was this always innately part of your journey? Is like you're a runner at heart?
Yeah, no. So I really just started my running journey. It will be 2 years in October, where
Wow.
I really started running. Before that, I played football my whole life, played college football, and I never really ran. I got done playing college football, and me and my dad were talking. I actually started reading one of David Goggins' books, and I was like, had no idea that like there was 100-mile races, or I didn't even know a marathon was 26 miles. Like I really had no idea. And I'm talking to my dad, and we're competitive, and he was like, "Man, you won't run like a marathon." So I just signed up for one. 8 weeks later, ended up running it, and that kind of sparked the journey of running. And then, yeah, man, we just really cranked this thing up. And then after I ran a marathon in Arizona in October 2 years ago, I was like, okay, let me go chase sub 3. And then that was the goal last year, to chase that and then run a 12-hour race, run a 100-mile race. And then I just kind of thought, well, what can I do now? And just decided to run across America.
Wild, wild, man. That progression is pretty crazy. Chalk another one up for Goggins. I'm in the same camp, dude. Can't hurt me. Just change the game. Then I think I listened to him on Joe Rogan. Then I read Can't Hurt Me, and then you just go down the rabbit hole,
Yeah,
bro.
it's a dark rabbit hole, man.
It is the demons, the demons. You find the demons for sure. Are you from Philly area? Are you from yeah?
Yeah, from Philadelphia, man.
Okay, nice. Are you a Birds fan?
100%.
Let's fucking
You're a
go. We
Birds
got a
fan.
big win. Yeah, bro. We got a big win last weekend.
That's great, man. That's great stuff.
Yeah, I'm from Doylestown outside of Philly.
Oh, that's sweet, man. Yeah, my dad used to work in Doylestown. I know like a ton of people from Doylestown. Great.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's been, 20 years since I've been back there,
Yeah.
but came up there. I guess I lived there 5 or 6 years and just held on to, the birds and being a Birds fan, fortunately. So it's an exciting year, dude. We looked bad at times on Friday night, and then we looked phenomenal at times on Friday
They
night,
showed
which is
enough
usually how we
flashes.
always come out. So
Exactly.
you're in Philly. What is the fitness scene like in Philly? Is there like a big run scene there, or what is that like?
Yeah, so I'm from Philadelphia. I lived there up until 2020, and then I left, and I worked for the government down in DC. So I moved down to DC. So that's where I live right now.
Okay.
So, I'm I guess, in the run scene down here in DC, which is amazing. I mean,
Is it?
I'll be at a run club tonight. There's a run club every morning and every night around the DC area. I mean, if you want to go run with people, you can do that. I try to go once a week just to be out there. I spend most of my
Mhm.
miles by myself. I'm a lonely dude when it comes to that stuff. Like I just like to go and just get my work in and handle my business. But I think there is a lot of value of doing like hard workouts with other people. As you know, and so going to do like a track workout, which none of us want to do. And
Mhm.
there's a run club on Tuesdays. Shout out Northeast Track Club, and it's work. Like I know there's like this stigma of socializing at these run clubs. We're running sprints, and it's fun doing it with your friends. So when you're all suffering together, it makes it a lot easier, just like playing football or playing sports. Like when you're doing it with your brothers, it's a lot easier. So I like to get out there just to have some fun, talk to some people, and do
Mhm.
that. So yeah, it's great.
And so you're also a coach, right? And a trainer. So what does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah.
Split in half and half because you said you work for the government as well?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
a full-time law enforcement officer in DC. That's what brought me
Okay.
down here. And then, yeah, I mean, it really started with helping people out at work. People at work kept coming up to me and asking me to help train them and do all that good stuff. And I've always loved nutrition. Even back in college, I was like the guy when it came to like nutrition when we were playing football. Like, how can we get our macros like better? How can we like optimize everything? Because I wasn't a great athlete. So I had to do all the other stuff to be,
Hmm.
an asset on the football field. Right. And so I just deep dived into all that extra stuff. And I've loved it. So being able to help people is great. Seeing people like achieve their goals. I know you do, you see the same thing happen. And I have a few people running the Marine Corps Marathon here at the end of October in DC. Super pumped to see them crush their goals. And, I get nervous for my races, but I get even more nervous when like you just coach someone for 16 weeks and now they have a race.
100%.
It's like you can't sleep the night before. You're hoping that they do everything the right way. But seeing them succeed is a really, really cool feeling.
No better feeling, man. Like their wins are your wins, and just in the same hand, like their losses are your
Right.
losses too. So it's like you feel the pressure just as much as they do before the race and everything, like you said. We have the Charlotte Marathon coming up in November. Majority of my clients, I wouldn't say majority, I'd say 50% of them are local. So we have like 10 to 12 people running Charlotte. So I'm gonna be on the bike, just cruising around,
Yeah,
trying to hit all the checkpoints, like support them along the way, which is gonna be awesome.
that's great.
Going back to kind of your running journey and what that's looked like. So you did kind of a natural progression. I mean, you started out with a marathon, which is untraditional, but as far as like the continuing distances, like did you go out and do like a 50K and then you did a 100 miler, or what did that progression look like
Yeah,
for you?
so I did the sub 3 hour marathon and then I went and I did a 12-hour race, ended up running 67 and a half miles in those 12 hours. And then I finished a year last year with a 100-mile race through the mountains. And
Hmm.
that was brutal. It was
Which one was that?
the Devil Dog Ultra over in Virginia. So it wasn't too far from
Okay.
me.
Okay, nice. And how did you fare for your first 100 miler? Was it like way fucking harder than you thought it was going to be? Like what went down?
Yeah, it was tough. I didn't really get to train like a month before the race because I was just my Achilles. I just like couldn't really run. This is the overtraining injury, but it was just
Hmm.
nagging me so much. So I went into it kind of not as prepared as I like wanted to be. And then being out there, it rained the entire time. It was December. It was freezing. You're going through the woods. You're on all fours, like trying to get up a hill that you should be able to walk up, but you can't. And it was the most humbling experience that I ever had, but beautiful in the same way. But yeah, it took, all 30 hours for me to get that thing done. But one heck of an experience just like battling through that and just dealing with the weather and the conditions and being freezing cold, and it was not
Hmm.
pleasant at all.
Yeah, but it lights a fire up inside you, you know? It's
Yeah.
like if I can do this, then you sound very similar to me. It's like if you go in on something, you're kind of all in on it,
Yeah.
and then you want to find the next big thing. Obviously for you it was like, okay, let's do this, and then the transcontinental journey, which is just massive. I can't even fathom that. But I think I first learned about you. I think you just as a content creator. I think I probably saw a couple of your reels going off. I think you and your buddy did like a series where you guys had some really good traction going on with that.
Yeah.
And then I also noticed that you have a really solid YouTube presence too. You have like 65,000 on YouTube, which is huge. Did your content journey start on YouTube?
Yeah, so two parts there. Just to touch on that, I don't think I would have got through the Transcon if I didn't run that 100-mile race. Like
Yeah.
having to go through like as far as I had to dig. Being injured going into that race was like the best thing that could have happened for me for the Transcon, if that can even
Mm.
make sense. Because like just having to deal with that adversity and then just being locked in this, in the mountains for 30 hours trying to run around like, for the first time, like it helped me out so much when it came, to Pier to Park. And to then touch on the content journey, yeah. So if you like scroll back YouTube wise, my first video is like right before that marathon 2 years ago, and
Hmm.
I'm making content running through real estate. That's like what I called the series. And I would be running and I'd be talking about real estate, or like running and like finding like houses that are all like messed up, and just like there's junk all over. Like I would, and then like that's how I started. I just wanted to start making content about something. And I was like
Mm,
getting into real estate, like working on buying like my first rental property. So I was learning about all this stuff. So it was just a way for me to like continue to learn. And how could I teach it? But then I was always like, I was running and like training for this marathon. So I was like, well, how can I, like, in my short schedule, how can I put the two together? And I literally just started posting content, like three videos a day. And
damn.
it's so funny that it goes from that all the way to where we're at today. I never thought that it would really like get to this point, or like where the transitions would go, right? Like starting just
Hmm.
doing, I just wanted to start. And I think that's like the biggest message. Just start. Just do something
Hmm.
and you'll figure it out. Like, even like the progression of my content, starting with running through real estate and then going into making skits. And then like when I did my first running video, it's just like a Joe Rogan motivational thing behind me running, you know? And then
Hmm.
now I make like elaborate skits and do all that stuff, and the run across America and everything. But it's, you'll find your lane, but you got to start driving the car first.
Such a good message. And the way I describe it is just go where you grow, because you'll start to post some shit and you're just going to figure it out along the way. Like what you start with is never where it's going to go, but you have to start getting the reps in and kind of figure it out along the way. So are you still doing real estate at all, or is that kind of like in the past?
Yeah, no, I still do, but not to like the level, or just, buying, you just trying to create wealth and buying some rental
Hmm.
properties and stuff like
Hmm.
that. I wouldn't consider myself a real estate guy or anything. I just would used it as an avenue to like to learn more. And then like if you can explain something to somebody, that's when you really know it. And I just use it as like a teaching method, and a way for me to gain knowledge. And
Hmm.
that's just how I started on YouTube.
Yep. Love it. Love it. That's how dude, all the success stories from YouTube is similar, man. It's just like you start with one thing and then it just progresses into this beast of something totally different.
Yeah.
And another way, so it was funny because I had seen you on IG just through running content type stuff. And then I went to Dev's Inner Circle, and shout out Devin Levesque. So he has this Inner Circle program. I joined that, I believe, a year after you, or maybe 6 months or something like that. But there's people in the group who stay in the group and like come to every time out. And they were like, dude, you got to know Andrew Linder, right? You guys are in the same space. You both run like crazy 100-mile race. I'm like, no, I've never heard of this guy. So I looked you up, started following you, reached out and everything like that. I'm curious about your experience with Inner Circle. And at that time, was this transcontinental run even an idea? Did it happen to spark while you were doing that experience? Because when I went to Inner Circle, I fucking loved it because you're with all these like-minded individuals, but like you guys are just throwing shit at the wall. And this is where these kind of crazy radical ideas can kind of come to the forefront at times. So I'm curious if what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, no, so that's beautiful. And so the run, I had just got done the first 12-hour race when I was joined Inner Circle. And then I was just like thinking like what's next? And the 100-mile was already on the schedule. Like I already knew I
Mm,
was doing that in December. I'd signed up before I even finished my 12-hour race. Like that was my goal for last year. So I was just figuring out like, wait, what could I do? And I was like thinking about going like all in and just like really like promoting like coaching and doing all of that. And I love that. But I wanted to do, wanted to raise money for charity. And when I ran my 12-hour race last year, I raised money for charity. And I wanted to do something, but then I needed to think of something I was going to be able to captivate enough people, right? When you want to raise a lot of money, you have to do something that's going to captivate people. So running a 100-mile race, as crazy as that is, you're only going to captivate so many people because it's only going to last for what, 24, 30 hours, right?
right.
So I need to do something that was long. And I literally thought of the run across America, and I decided less than 10 minutes to do it. Like it was not like, I tell you, like I don't think about things. Like if I feel some way about something, I'm doing it and I'm going all in. And then like I
Mm,
called my buddies, and I'm talking to Dev, and Dev was the guy who gives me the idea. He's like, yo, like, what if you do it? What if you do it with a 15-pound weighted vest? And he's like, if no one's done it before, like you got to do it. And we start like researching and like finding, and like we can't find anyone that's done it before, right? So we literally talked about it and just we're like, yeah, this is what we're doing. And it was just like that, man. And I was like, okay, we can do something. Because people will ask immediately, like, why are you wearing the 15-pound weighted vest? And, just causes more conversation and, allows more people to get invested into the journey, donate more money. And that was the goal. But Inner
Mm-hmm.
Circle was amazing. When you talk about that with the guys, I literally get like two guys in that group are literally my best friends. One guy, like he was already friends with like some of my friends from home that we never met, but he was like super close with two of my like best friends from home, which is just like, it's just
Are you
crazy.
talking about Chase?
Oh, I'm talking Chris and
Okay.
Chris
Okay.
Rahill. And then, yeah, Chase ends up coming across with the Run Across America. Love that guy to death. I literally talk to him every single day. He's just my dog.
Yeah. Yeah. He was the other guy. Everybody was like, yeah, man, y'all need to link up because you're in the same space. You think the same.
Yeah.
So at that point, is that kind of how ProMix came to get on board and kind of support you through that journey, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I was working with ProMix before even like the
Okay.
connection with Dev.
Okay.
My drive like to work with ProMix was I wanted to find like a really good protein and stuff, because like a lot of proteins like destroy my stomach. So
Mm.
I'm very big into eating, a lot of healthy foods, whole foods, no artificial stuff, like I try to limit literally everything. I love nutrition. So I started using ProMix before my relationship even was with Dev or anything. And I just started loving the product. And I've tried pretty much every protein, and that's just the one I stuck with. And, it worked out, and, it was great.
Shout out ProMix. They're an amazing, amazing company, super clean products. Dev's a part of that too. So that's kind of why I was putting two and two together there, but that
Yeah.
makes sense. You're already using it. Going back to this original idea, and you said you kind of knew within 10 minutes that it was going to be a thing. Like, what did that look like, that those 10 minutes? Like, where did the idea pop into your mind? And then who were you talking to at the time? And then when did it click? And it's like, all right, we got to fucking do this now. Like, it's more than an idea. Like, I'm ready to commit and let's go ahead and do this thing.
Yeah. So I thought about it was a Saturday when I was at work, and I thought about it, and then it made, so my work schedule is a little different, but like pretty much how my schedule works around is around other like members of Congress and stuff like that. So it being an election year, it had worked out that there's everyone's traveling, doing their campaigns and stuff like that, to where like I was able, if I would have the leave, if I would have the amount of leave, I would be able to take the leave for like almost a 3-month span. So it I literally checked that, and I said, okay, it's there. It's possible for me to do it. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, I'm doing it. And then I called like my best friend, my roommate Brandon, who's my crew chief on all my races, was with me for running. I was like, hey man, this is what we're doing. And he's just like, okay, like, like, all right, man. And then I called Marlon, and Marlon Johnson, my mindset coach, and I told him, and I called Eric, and I called Chase, like those guys, and those are the same guys that were with me the entire time. And I said, hey man, this is what we're doing. I didn't really know, didn't know what day specifically I was gonna. I was like, okay, I'm thinking around March or April. This is what we're gonna do. Let's start doing research. But we're gonna get this thing done. And then I started sending out text messages. And if I tell somebody I'm gonna do something, I'm going to do it. Like my word means so much to me. And I think just from how I was raised and being around my parents, like something like I always honored, like with my dad, is like if he said he was going to do something, like it was done. And I always wanted to be like that. So that's just like something that I strive for. So I send text messages out, not to like brag, but to make sure that the people in my life hold me
Mm.
accountable for it. So I texted a couple of my other buddies that hold me accountable, said, hey man, I'm going to run across America next year. And August 27th, I think, was the date that like my buddies like have the screenshots. that I said I was going to do it. And it was just that Saturday while I was at work, and I decided it. And then I was like, okay, well then I have to do it now.
Unreal. I couldn't resonate more with doing what you say you're going to do is the coolest thing you can fucking do, man, in the world. Like, that's the measure of a man, in my opinion, is, if they're a man of their word, which is why oftentimes when I'm shooting for something, I'll do something similar, is kind of like use social media as that accountability partner.
Yeah.
Do you tend to do the same thing, or you just kind of check in with the homies and the homies keep you accountable?
Yeah, social media is great too, like because people expect you to do or live up to some type of standard, and there's good and bad about that. But I think social media is very good if you have like a good group if you don't have a good group of guys or a good group of people that hold you accountable, right? Because I think there are people that are in a situation where they don't have like that strong like presence of people around them that hold them accountable, or maybe they're trying to move away from their friends and they're trying to start like this new path of like health and wellness and making the right progressions, and maybe their friends don't do that. Yeah, social media is awesome, right? Because like you can't change your position overnight, right? Like you're not just going to move out of your town. Most people aren't going to do that, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think it's great. I mean, whatever you have the resources to, but social media is a great resource if you use it as one.
How in the world did it line up logistically for your buddies to be able to crew you during the same time when you had to leave? Like, how did that all work out?
Right. So Brandon and myself, we work together. So
Okay.
we were able to do it. Marlon works from home. He's an entrepreneur. Same thing with Chase. He's an entrepreneur. And Eric can work from home. So those three guys, they just worked the entire time while we were in the RV. So we got the RV, we got Starlink, so everyone had access to their Zoom calls. They could still run all their businesses and do all that stuff the entire time. But I knew that those three guys would be able to make it work. So it just worked out. You got to know your personnel.
100%. So, okay, explain like each person's kind of role along the way, or what it
Yeah.
eventually turned into. Like, who was the guy who's helping feed you? Who's the guy
Right.
who's helping the massage? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So all right. So Brandon Chambers, that's the crew chief. He runs everything, and like the reason why we get along is I'm more of like go go go, and he's a calmer like, I mean, let's just attack this thing, right? And he's calmer just in life. And so he would wake up and he would start making breakfast and do all that stuff for me. I would eat breakfast around mile 10 every day. And then whoever didn't have like a call first thing in the morning, it was usually like Eric or Marlon, they would then drive me to the start line, right? Because wherever we were sleeping at was usually like an RV park. Then we'd have to drive to where we ended the night before. So that would happen. I would go out there. The first 10 miles, typically I spent by myself most of the days.
Fasted? You'd run them fasted?
Oh, well, I would have a Pop-Tart on the way. So
Okay.
I would eat a Pop-Tart and like Pro Mix, like electrolytes and stuff on my drive in, because I was just trying to find time to sleep, So I'm not waking up eating a whole breakfast. So just a Pop-Tart, 400 calories, and like an electrolyte. So then I would start running. One of the guys, they would stop at mile 4, give me some more 400 calories, and then I would eat breakfast at mile 10, which was usually like potatoes, eggs, bacon, just like a full breakfast, blueberries, and I would eat a lot at mile 10. And then one of the guys would usually come out then and start running with me the rest of the day, depending on like their schedules. Like some days I was just out there, 40 miles by yourself. That would happen. On the weekend, someone was with me all the time. So like either Chase or Marlon or Eric would put 40-mile days in with me. And everyone who was there ran a full day with me at least once. So whether it was 40, 42 miles, all the guys are savages. And none of the guys are runners either. That's what people like also don't understand. Like Marlon like has a joke. He's like, I'm not a runner. I'm just friends with Andrew. And, like he did over 1,100 miles throughout,
Shit.
throughout the run with me, which is incredible, as you know.
Yeah, that's insane. Insane, dude.
Yeah.
Logistically, for this whole thing, you got to get the crew, you got to get the RV, you got to plan the route and all of that. How much forethought went into putting together this whole thing? Like months and months of work?
I mean, once I came
Or
up, yeah,
you said you're somebody who's just kind of dives in and like goes with it. So
yeah.
is it like, hey, we got the RV, we're gonna figure it out as we go?
Yeah, so even we kind of just we were just like looking for an RV. I knew I wanted to buy an RV, not rent one, because renting one was insanely expensive. Like if you're trying to rent an RV for 3 months, good luck. It's a
Mm,
lot of money, and just buying one and then selling it is cheaper. So just did that, and I knew I wanted to. Here's the thing, like where people I think might get a little bit of the story twisted. Like I wanted to raise money for charity with the run across America and everything like that, all the money that it cost me or the amount of like debt I had to go in for the run, it didn't matter to me because my goal was to raise the most amount of money I could for charity. So, like, I didn't, things that people would think about, I didn't really like it just wasn't really a priority to me. Like we
mm,
planned and stuff every day. Like when it came to the route, putting all the stuff together, making sure we had like enough gear. Luckily, I talked to like Ultra with like running the shoes that I wear for the
hmm.
last few years. I've worn them. They've been great. They helped me out, and that was really like the main focus. So if everything was set up with the charity, and then everything we ended up finding an RV. Someone came to us like, "Hey, we're selling the RV on seller finance." It was perfect situation for us. We were able to buy it. We had to figure it out, and we met as a team every Friday, and that was pretty much it. And I was like, "Okay, I'll let the guys do what they have to do, and I'm just going to keep training for this thing."
It was wild because you started your journey at the same time as Paul Johnson,
Yeah.
who was also doing the transcon. Were
Shout
you
out
guys in
Paul.
communication leading up to that at all?
Dude, he I don't really have any words other than he's just like an incredible human, that guy.
Mm,
And he didn't have to help me out as much as he did, and he looked out for me the entire way. And not
mm.
only him, but his crew, Rob and Mike, who we're all friends now. Those guys are really special, man. Um, I remember the day 3, we were taking a similar route. We went up until like day 5. We went down towards Phoenix. They went up towards like the Colorados. Like we wanted to avoid the Rockies, so we did. And they wanted it to do less miles, but they were
Mhm,
cool with the elevation, so they did. But day 3, it was like we had to go through like near like Indian reservation, and Paul ends up getting like turned around on it. You know, they reached out right away and was like, "Hey, like you guys got to avoid this area. Like you're gonna lose like 15 miles, like stuff like that." Like they didn't have to do that, right? And like they're thinking about like they're trying to break a world record at this point, right?
mhm.
And they're like, "Wait, hold on, let's like reach out to Lynn and make sure that his crew knows that like they can't go down this road because I know they're gonna try to go down here." And just like little stuff like that, man. When they ran into different things, they would always like reach out and let us know. And if Paul was dealing with an issue, his crew would reach out to my crew and say, "Hey, like, hey, Paul, this just happened to Paul. Like, if this starts happening, this is how we fixed it," kind of thing. And they're just great people, man, and so much respect for him and his entire crew.
As you got going, you're doing on average, 40-mile days, sometimes over that. Did you figure out pretty quick? Like, did you feel like you were undertrained, overtrained? Like, how did you feel about what work you put in prior to the run? And then how are you starting to feel once everything went kind of underway to begin with?
Yeah, so about the second and third day in, the problem was sleeping. I was
Mm,
I was sweating so much in my sleep that the mattress was soaked, and we didn't have an RV for the first 10 days. So our RV was supposed to be wrapped. There was a huge miscommunication. The RV was in a different place than it was supposed to be. It wasn't wrapped. It wasn't ready. So we thought
mm,
we were going to have an RV. on the start. We didn't. So that caused like a whole other thing. So now we're staying in Airbnbs for the first 10 days. And now we're in a part of California and Arizona where there's not like Airbnbs close by. There's not hotels close by. The one day we were driving past Coachella, we had to stay in Coachella. We had to drive an hour and 25 minutes to the start line the next day. Like mentally, that is demoralizing.
Right.
You're getting up at 3:00 in the morning just to start running at 5:30. It was demoralizing, especially when you pull up to the start line and you see like tractor trailers and RVs just on the side of the road. And you're like, wow, I really could have just walked out of, And we at the time we have 6 guys all in a Land Rover LR4, 2013 Land Rover LR4 with all of our stuff.
Yeah, damn.
So like mentally it was tough. And I knew that my training was there. I wasn't nervous about my training, but I didn't know how my body was going to hold up, like just like taking the stress of it all. And I knew I had to get through the first 2 weeks because that was going to be the toughest part. And I had terrible shin splints a couple days, like literally 3 days in, I could barely walk. And we just really didn't have a plan early on like how to really go about things. But I knew if I could get through the first 10 to 14 days, then I would be able to figure this whole thing out. And, I just took it one day at a time. But there's definitely early on, laying in bed at night, you're asking yourself, like, did I bite off more than I can chew? And, you're 2-3 days in and you're like, I still have 75, 76 more days of this thing. So if you look at it long term, it's very hard to stay focused. And that's like the thing that got me through it was just focusing on like one day at a time and not letting like the last day, whether it was good or bad, transfer into the next day.
Yeah. I think my favorite part about watching your journey was like the energy you would have for some of these morning videos or whatever it was, and you'd just be screaming like fired up, and it would get me fired up, and I'm not even a part of this thing, but I'm like, dude, this guy's energy is on another level. And that would be like 30, 40, 50 days into the journey, which was just crazy. Going back to something you touched on was the sweat you were losing when you were sleeping at night. Like, what was that stemming from? Was it just from running 40 miles a day and your body wasn't used to it, or do you know?
Yeah, so we were calling everybody, all the doctors, like PT, because it was like really bad, like nothing I've ever experienced before. And they were saying that my body was just running so hot from like all day for like 13 hours a day, and I wasn't giving myself like enough time before I went to sleep. Because like I'm trying to get to bed right away, and then
Right.
I wasn't putting in like enough fluids right before bed. So that's like what we really started focusing on, was just like especially later on in the day, I'm trying to just finish the run. It was like, no, we got to drink a lot so that we can get into bed. And like it took about 3 weeks to get that under control, where I just didn't sleep, and that was the toughest part. Because man, when you're not sleeping and then you're trying to go be this person that runs 40 miles a day with this 15-pound weighted vest, it's very hard to do, and it comes back to the social media thing where like people expect you to be this person, and like you have to, are you the guy you say you are, kind of thing. And you find those moments when you're out there on the run. And I'll just go into it. Like there was a day where we only had the RV. We were in Arizona, and Marlon and Chase had a speaking engagements. So they were changing out like the Land Rover. So we didn't have the Land Rover. We just had the RV, and it was snowing. So when you're up in Arizona, did not expect to snow. Shout out to Ultra,
No.
because they sent us like all this cold gear right before we got in. We're like, what are we going to need this for? And then it snowed for 10 straight days.
No shit.
Yeah. So
Wow.
we're like going up the side of this mountain where there's not really service. So I start my run at the beginning of the day, and the guys, they end up closing the bridge that I went up on the side of the mountain. So the guys can't get to me. And I can't even let them know, because my phone doesn't work. So now it's like a decision. It's like, do I just keep going or do I try to like turn around and try to find like now? But that's also demoralizing. So I'm like, well, let me just keep going forward. And I'm just like, well, we'll just figure it out. Well, it ends up going, I don't see the guys for, it was around 18 miles.
Wow.
And just hoping that like you don't know when you're going to see them, but it's snowing and then it's raining and you're soaked. You're just drenched. There was actually a video like one of the videos I made was like me changing out that day because I was so wet. But I didn't really eat. I didn't even really talk to the guys. I was just so like far in the hurt locker. I just wanted to get done. But I told myself that day I had to do 40 miles. And the guys said to me, they're like, "Hey man, like just call it a day, dude. Like it's like this weather's terrible. Like you don't need to get sick. But for me, I need to do 40 miles that day because like, are you the guy you say you are? You know?" And that's why I just kept asking myself, like, who are you? Like, who are you, Andrew Linder? Like, who are you? And when I finished that day, I knew I was going to finish the run. And I think that was day 15 or 16 in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
But if I knew that if I could get through this day, how many days could be really worse than this? You're miserable.
Was that the worst day for you that you kind of experienced, or can you think back to any other times when you were like, fuck this?
Yeah, so that was the hardest day physically. Physically, that was really hard because you know, a ton of elevation, raining, you're by yourself, zero motivation. Like when
Mm-hmm.
motivation is the fakest thing ever. There's zero motivation. No one wants to do it. There's no camera in my face. Like there's nothing. And it's just me just having to get it, just get it done. And every car that goes by is splashing you with water. Your shoes are soaked. It's just everything's miserable about it. But that's also like the beauty of it as well. There's a day when we first got into New Mexico. So me and Marlon are running into New Mexico, and it was just a bad day for me. Like I just couldn't really like. I felt like I was like moving in quicksand all day, and I was kind of just sitting in my own shit. And then we get into New Mexico, which is a good morale booster anytime we got into another state. But we get in, and immediately the state troopers they stop us, you know, they're just saying what's up, you know, give us some patches, and they're like, hey man, you guys got to watch out for dogs. And we're like, okay. We get into the first town, Zuni, New Mexico, and which was the poorest area I've ever seen in my life, and it was the poorest area we went through in all of the whole country. But we got attacked by dogs right away.
Damn.
Literally, we walked in there. We're surrounded. We got our walking sticks. We're swinging them. We're trying to call Brandon, who's in the Land Rover, to come drive by. And, you know, whatever stereotypes, like I'm white, Marlon's black, and we're in like an Indian reservation. So we stand out, you know, like everyone's like, who are these guys?
Mm-hmm.
But it was sad. It was so sad going through that town on how poor it was. The people, you know, just babies walking around and dogs. It was sad. Like it really made me just not want to do it. Like I just was like, get me out of here. Alcohol and trash everywhere, just like all over the ground. And that was one of the days where I was just like, man, what are we doing this? Like why are we even out here, man? Like we got a long way to go. And
yeah,
you know, there was a few days where mentally I was just, you know, in the hurt locker. But that day in Arizona, that was the day that was like, yeah, this is the day.
On the flip side of that, I'm sure there were days that were huge morale boosters for you, where people would come out, run with you, say what's up, support the journey. Any of those kind of come to mind as some of your best days out there?
Yeah, there's a day in and we're going through Indianapolis, and one of the guys, he like reached out to me, and they have like an indoor like firing range, like gun range, and he like sent something to me, whatever. But I'm like, dude, I'm not going out of my way to go to this place, right? Like,
Right.
So we're running through Indianapolis, and it just happened that the guy, like it's me, Marlon, and Chase were running, and like vibes were just high. Like, it was a beautiful day. And this guy just walks out and he like recognizes us. He's like, yo. So we literally just walked in, and instead of like taking like a break for like 20 minutes for lunch, we just went in there and we just shot guns. and just like, dude, it was the most random thing ever.
So
But we had
random.
so much fun, dude, and it just like just took a break from it, and we were like, yeah, we just crushed miles the rest of the day. We were in such a good mood. We were like, we don't, just give me water on the go. We're cranking them, and we talked about it the rest of the day. Like it was a
I
lot of
bet.
fun, man. But
I bet it was probably just like that random kind of release that you didn't know you needed, but it was just get your mind off running at least for like an hour or two
yeah,
and kind of, relieve a little bit of stress too, I'm sure.
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know like how that's gonna come in or like how that's gonna affect you, but yeah, just amazing, man.
And I assume people would like run with you because they, would track you a little bit and figure out where you were. And then they would want to come catch some miles with you. How did that work? And like, how were people able to keep up with exactly where you were?
Yeah, people were just coming by, like whether following me on Strava, they would just go check the
Mm,
Strava, and like I set my Strava to where you can like see the actual location. And yeah, we had a couple people come out pretty much every day. Once we got out of New Mexico, because you're just in the middle of nowhere out there, man. But once you get out of New Mexico, there's people with us pretty much every day, at least a couple people. They would come out, stop by for a couple miles. People are so nice, man. It's like one of the things that I took from the journey. So how many people came by, stopped, brought us dinner, brought us food. Some guy drove. We were in St. Louis, and him and his wife drove and like brought us ice cream
mm,
at nighttime. Like
just good people.
just good people, man.
Yeah.
And so many people as well stopped me while I was running, asking me if I needed something. Like, hey, do you need a
Mm.
ride into town? Hey, do you need some water? One like days when it would rain, the amount of people were like, hey, like, do you need me to go get you a blanket? And I'm like, oh no, I'm running across America, guys. And like, hey, like I'm all right. But so many people will stop you and just trying to be good people, and that's makes you feel good, man. Because we hear so many of these bad stories, but there's so many great people out there, man.
Did you find it hard some days when you just weren't feeling 100 when people would want to come run and talk to you and everything and you're just like having one of those days where it was a little bit more tough?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I that's like one thing. Paul had it a
sure.
lot worse than me, right? Paul has hundreds of people running with him every day, and people want to talk to you, and you're answering the same questions. Um, I couldn't even imagine that, honestly,
Mm,
because there's days where there's days where you're hoping no one comes out and runs with you, where you're
yeah.
like, I don't feel like talking. And I remember there was a day in Missouri where it was one of my worst days. I just like mentally, I was just like a mess that day. And there was like a whole group of people waiting for me at the finish line. And I was like dreading finishing the run
Mm,
because I was a mess emotionally that day. Don't really know why. You just have those days. And I remember like not being serious, but like asking Brandon to like change the route last minute to where like I don't finish where everyone thought I was going to finish. But like you can't do that, right? But I'm just
right.
like, man, what is there a way? Like, is there a way? Like, but you got to like it goes back to like being the person that you say you are, right? And
Right.
you got to look at it as like no matter how you're feeling, these people took time out of their day to come support you, right? Nonetheless, they came out to support me and to support what I was doing. So how I kind of just say F my feelings in those times, man, and have great conversations with people. And it's always good. Like you feel that way. And then you talk to the person, you're like, wow, I really thought about like not wanting to talk to this guy or like not wanting to talk to this girl. And then like not little kids, but there's some kids like that are in, sixth, seventh, eighth grade that came out and did like 20 miles,
Wow.
just like gangster,
Wild.
gangster.
Yeah.
So cool, man. And like those are the
And
moments like
afterwards
I'll always
you're
cherish those.
yeah, I'm sure after the interaction you're always like, "Why was I dreading that? That actually gave me so much energy. I feel so much better after," right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about what your breakfast would look like. I assume you're burning like 8 to 10,000 calories a day, if not more than that. So how much are you trying to get in each day and what did the diet typically look like?
Yeah. So first 3 days we tried eating healthy. First two
Mm,
days we ate healthy. The third day I couldn't even talk at the end of the day because
mm,
if you try to eat 5,000 calories of chicken and rice, it's like impossible to do when you're on the run for 13 hours. And so then we just really started drinking Coke and McDonald's, and literally Chase Chase is like the healthiest guy. Like he's the most like San Diego, California dude ever.
Yeah.
And he's going to the grocery store trying to find like the most unhealthy foods there are. Like if it doesn't, it needs to have the most amount of calories. There's this cookie from Walmart. Walmart sells these bakery cookies. They're 360 calories, a single cookie.
Mm.
Crazy that we even sell that. Like
Right.
it's actually insane that like that's even allowed to be sold, but that's what I
Yeah.
was eating, and that's really what like got me. Cause like being able to eat something on the go, like a cookie, so much easier than trying to eat 400 calories of chicken and rice. You know,
Hmm.
it's
Oh
not even
yeah.
possible to do. It's really not.
So did you have a threshold you were trying to reach every day calorie wise, and
Yeah, we
what
were
was
trying
it?
to hit around 6,000,
6,000. Okay.
calories a day, and around 400 calories every hour. That's kind of what would help me out a lot. And then we'd have a big meal mile 10, and then around mile 26 to 30, I would have another, like I would have my lunch, which would be typically, you know, 10 McNuggets from McDonald's and fries and a Coke.
Dude, what did your body composition look like at the end of it?
Dude, I felt disgusted, man. My family, we went on vacation, and I'm 20 pounds less than I was, and I look like disgusting.
You probably didn't recognize your
Nah,
body, honestly.
nah, man. And like, I had
Yeah.
like a rash. I had a rash like all on my stomach and my back from the vest, you know.
Hmm.
I remember like looking at myself in a mirror like one night during the run. I'm in an RV park, and I'm in an RV park, and I'm just like looking at myself like, bro, what are we doing this for? Like people, like what's going on, man?
Yeah.
You look disgusting, man. Like clean yourself up.
It's like the definition of skinny fat. Like you're doing so much effort and so much exercise, but it's not conducive to body composition at all.
At all, at all. Like
Yeah.
I just got back doing 90 pounds on like the incline dumbbells.
Yeah.
And I text Brandon, and he's like, bro, I never thought I'd be like receiving the text that you're happy you did 90s on like incline dumbbells. But it's like, dude, a new milestone for me here.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure, dude. Jesus, wild. What was the most challenging part of the trip that maybe you didn't account for beforehand? Anything come to mind?
Mentally, mentally, it was way harder than I thought it was going to be. Just being out there and staying locked in. You miss your family. You know,
Mm,
I've been away from my family for different things, you know, for months at the time, but you're doing this physical journey every single day. And then I don't want to say there's not like a reward every day. Like your reward every day is like being able to like lay back in your bed and whatnot. But seeing some of like the really poor areas of the country
yeah.
is like very tough to be like, oh well, I'm just out here in an RV with my buddies, you know. And then like when things would go wrong, you know, how you adapt. The guys, like the guys are incredible, man. Like, cause I'll be the first one to tell you I'm a hard person to be around at times. Like I and I'm just like, well, why the F is this road closed? Right. Like, you know, like and just being able to have a group of guys that like are gonna be able to adapt to that. But you know, when things would go wrong and you're in Missouri, like one day, me and Marlon, the Land Rover breaks down, the RV is hours behind us, and we're in the same situation where we're in Missouri. It's 85 degrees out, and we don't see any of the guys for 20 miles,
Mm,
and we're out of water, and we're trying, but
oh
like
shit.
we looked at each other. There's no stores, okay? Like there's no gas stations. There's nothing out there. And we looked at each other and we're like, yo, we sat on this rock, and we're like, yo, we're gonna bitch back and forth to each other for 2 minutes. And then no matter what happens, we're staying positive until the guys come. but everything you want to get out, bro. We got 2 minutes. We set the timer and we were just freaking just like screaming at each other, right? Timer goes off and we're just like, let's have fun, man. Let's have fun. Because there's nothing you're
Yeah.
going to do about the situation. Like, it is what it is, man. How you react, like, you can either be miserable about it or you can be happy about it. And it's like, okay, well, we're just, we got to get ours today.
That speaks to the power of the crew, bro. Like how you would be in the shitter probably, 50% of days, probably maybe more than that.
Yeah.
And to be able to get pulled out by your boys. I mean, not only just like random crew, but like your fucking boys, that you've been with for a long time. That's huge. So shout out to them. The last thing I wanted to ask about right before we get to kind of the finish at the park and everything is it's easy to forget about the vest because the vest is like under your clothes or whatever. Sometimes it's on top, whatever. But in the colder conditions, people aren't seeing it. And even as we talk about this, I keep forgetting about the vest. 15 pounds, it's not a ton, but like over the course of 40 miles every single day for that long, it's like it takes its toll. I'm sure, as you said, like you were chafed up. It was probably pretty bad at some points. Were there days where you were like, dude, fuck the vest, man? Nobody's going to know if I get a couple miles without the vest. Like you were thinking like, why did I choose to do this vest thing? I'm sure that ran through your head a bunch of times.
Oh, bro, every day. Every
Like
day.
nobody's going to know,
Dude,
bro.
day one, I'm like, why do we choose this vest? Like 20 miles into day one, and I'm like, man, why am I wearing this vest?
Like there's a reason that nobody's done this before.
Yeah. And the vest also, like the reason why we end up going with the vest, and I raised money for human trafficking prevention, and it really was to just like for the victims to realize that like we know that you have to carry this the rest of your life. Right.
Yep.
And that's what gave like me the power to get through that, where I was just like, I get to take this thing off every day. The victims, they have to live with what happens to them for the rest of their lives. And when things got tough, like Chase, like that's what I went to, man, every single time. Like that day in Arizona. And I just kept telling myself, like, there's people, they wish, like if they had to run 40 miles through these conditions right now, they would set world records to get out of their situation, and when you have like, we make jokes about all that stuff, like with the vest and everything. But when you like really realize like what you're doing it for and like who you're doing it for, it's like, oh, this is easy, man. Like the chafing, the rashes, my body looking like crap at the end of this thing, my feet hurting, whatever, it's like, I can do this.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. Why was that the cause that you ended up going with the human trafficking?
Yeah, so that's really why I got into law enforcement. When I got into law enforcement, I wanted to get into federal law enforcement, and I wanted to go after the worst people on the planet, and that's kind of what I identified as, for a long time. So yeah, I mean, it was really a no-brainer. Really, that's like I've dedicated a large part of my life. That's why I've always trained as hard as I've trained, so that I can be the best while I'm at work. And it's been a passion of mine. I just want to help people, man, and people who don't really have a voice for themselves. I have somewhat of a platform and was able to raise this money for them, for like people who don't have the opportunity to do so. So being able to help those people out, it makes me feel good, selfishly.
Let's go to that final Saturday where you're finishing up. Was it in Central Park?
Yeah. So we finished like right off, in Central Park, New York City, right off the fountain. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So talk to me about what you were feeling and what that day was like. I'm sure there was relief. I'm sure there was joy. Was there sadness along with that this was kind of over? Like, what did you experience on that day?
Yeah. So I would say the experience for me, like, because we had the day May 18th, the final week to 10 days for me was kind of crazy. Like every day, so many people were coming out, but I also got to run through Philly 10 days, like almost 10 days prior. And for me, being in my hometown, everybody's out there. We get to shut down the city during rush hour. All my friends and family are there. And that to me, like Philly was like that day for me. And then we were so ahead on miles up to that point where we were doing like 20 to 25 miles a day. Like we were literally only running half the amount of miles, because when we were like in the Midwest, we cranked miles we were cranking past 40 miles every day. So it was kind of like this this gradual like decline from Philly all the way to New York. And when I woke up that day, and all the guys, and we're just getting ready for this final go at it, and it was so cool seeing the amount of people that came out and ran that never ran. That final day we did 8 miles.
Mm.
The amount of people who never ran 8 miles before, but they did it that day for that cause. That meant the world to me. That was one of the coolest parts of the entire thing. Just seeing so many people push themselves and be out there, for me and for the cause, and just showing me support. And it was it was incredible. And crossing that finish line just in Overmount, just a sense of just being proud of
Mm-hmm.
myself and being proud of my team, because we did it, and we said we were going to do it, and we did it. And that means the world to all of us. And raising over $100,000 or $110,000 at that point, it was great stuff. And we were just happy it was over, but happy that it happened.
Yeah. Unreal, man. Congratulations on all the money you raised along the way and lives you've touched along the way. I mean, countless, 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 which is incredible, and all the people you've helped with the money you raised. So insane. Props to you. Have you experienced, Paul's kind of touched on this a little bit in his social, as well as like kind of going through a post-run depression, post-run blues after it. I mean, you go from this extreme of running all these miles, being with the homies and with the crew every single day, to like nothing. Like, you don't have to go out and get miles. You don't have to really go out and do anything. This is time to recover, quote unquote. What has that been like for you?
It's been tough, man. It's been
Yeah.
tough. Like, I showed up to do the Loop-de-Looper 12-hour race a few weeks ago, and that's kind of where it really hit me. Like, I didn't want to be there at all.
Mm.
I kind of showed up to run. I didn't even stretch before the run. Like, I didn't want to go. I just, went out there. Like, people were like, "Hey, what's your goal?" And I think like people were expecting me to go out there and like compete to win. I wasn't like training before like to go run it. Like, I just went off to, whatever. It was, but I think I like felt like I needed to go do it for some reason.
Mm.
Um, but I think that taught me where like I'm going to do the Chicago Marathon. I'm not racing it. I'm not. I'm just gonna go out there and run, go have some
Hell
fun.
yeah.
Like, it's like this weird thing. I think everyone asks you like, what's next? What's next? And it's kind of this thing where like, well, like, what do I have to do now? What do you mean, like, what's next? Kind of thing, right? Like, I can do what, this December, me and like the boys like Chase, we're going to Africa to do Kilimanjaro. So
Oh, hell yeah.
just doing like some fun stuff like that, rather than putting. I was like going to go chase a 250 marathon, and I will at some point, but mentally, I'm not. I don't feel like doing it. Just like just being honest, man. Like, I
Yeah.
don't feel like doing it. Like, even like when it came to doing content and everything, I've been so like, I don't feel like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Running is kind of like, there's days where I want to run, I run. There's days where I don't want to run, I don't run. Like, I still work out every single day, cold plunge, sauna, lift
Yeah.
weights every single day, because I love doing that stuff. But I had like a long talk with a couple people that I respect, and I talked to Dev about this as well. Him coming off Everest, and we chatted for a long time, and that conversation really like helped me a lot. And it's just like, like, I'm just gonna do the things that I kind of want to do, but also like learn to love the train again. Because like the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I've been able to achieve the things I've been able to achieve in the last, let's say 12 months, is because I love the process of just getting in the, like you, man, just absolutely putting yourself through the ringer. And I love going through that process. Like, that process sucks, man. Like, it's terrible, but you love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't love it right now. And I think just
Yeah.
like coming off of everything, just learning to love the process again. And I know I'll get back into it, but putting some other things on my calendar rather than running. I think that's another thing. People think I love running. I don't. I don't at all. Like I could care less about running. Like my goal is never to be like the best ultra runner.
Right.
Like that's not me. I like looking good with my shirt off, having a six pack, benching 300 pounds. Like that's like y'all can have the all these 100-mile races and stuff. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
become better mentally.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, having fun. Probably gonna go chase a couple high rocks events, do something like that.
I couldn't resonate more, man. So obviously we went through totally different events, but like I'm in the same boat on the backside of getting rhabdo at Leadville and DNFing and everything. It's like you go through something that's kind of like, you train or you do all this up for, and then you're just so depleted after. And I was like, man, I want to love running again. Like
Yeah,
for you, it's like you don't even really love running, but occasionally you'll get the craving to like go out and everything. I'm like, I haven't craved going out for a run in months and months and months and months.
yeah,
And I want to get that back, And so like it's weird because there's this strange pressure, because like we are running content creators or whatever
yeah,
you want to say, but that's like self-imposed. Like there really is no pressure. It's just what you think. If you're putting the blinders on and you're thinking like that's what you are, then that's what you are. But like, I love slinging some weight too. I'm getting back into like my weightlifting era.
yeah,
And dude, does it feel good to go out and like lift for an hour and a half and not run 10 miles afterwards? You know
right,
what I mean? Like
right.
just to be in a lifting season and then to be able to rest and recover and like start to put muscle back on and everything. It's like I'm enjoying that process quite a bit right now. And also things like high rocks are firing me up. And I'm like, I don't have to go keep chasing sub 245, 240,
Yeah,
like 14-hour 100 miles. Like, there's seasons of all these things and I want to continue to run them. I'll continue to run hundreds. I'll continue to run marathons, but like, there's something to be said for being hybrid and slinging some weight and just doing what you enjoy doing. So
yeah,
I'm so glad you said that. And I think it's important for people to know that too, is like, don't put yourself into a category because that's what other people are putting you into. It's like, go experience what you want to go experience and experiment, man, and figure out, try new sports like a high rocks or something like that. Like high rocks seems so fucking fun, dude.
yeah.
And I just want to go see if I'm any good at it.
Right. It's just it's good to test yourself in different ways. Like even when like both of us getting into this running journey, it's like, well, how far can I take this thing? Right. And it's like, well, why not go do something else? Doing an Ironman, right? Like doing triathlons, whatever that is, going to do
Mm-hmm.
a hike Kilimanjaro or whatever. Like I think we get so comfortable as well as like, oh, well, I'm this runner, like I'm this guy who runs and stuff like that. When I'm like, let me just change this whole thing up and go chase some other stuff. But and it's like you said too, man. If I want to go run 3 miles and just be chilling, I can do that, and then
Fuck yeah.
go lift weights, right? Like just do something that I like to do because when this is the thing when you're at this level, right? The way that you train and if you're going to sign up to do something, you already know that the commitment that takes to live up to your standard because it doesn't matter what someone else thinks about me.
Right.
Like if I say I'm going to go run a 250 marathon or a 240 marathon, I'm going to do it. And I know what type of training hell and purgatory I'm going to be in for
Yep.
that. That means no drinking. That means no going out. That means no late nights. That means eating clean for 16 straight weeks. That means not missing a workout or missing a split because you might not know, but I'll know, right? It's like that
Right.
Hormozy thing, right? If you try to throw something out in the trash and it misses, right? You could walk away. No one's going to know you did it, but you'll know.
Yep.
So,
100%.
yeah, bro.
100%. As somebody who goes all in on these things,
Yeah.
I have the same personality trait, man. I'm like, next thing. Eventually you will get to the next thing, whether that's, a race or something else. Do you find yourself like craving another massive challenge or undertaking to kind of put on the calendar? I mean, you have Kilimanjaro, which in and of itself is a huge fucking challenge. So maybe that's it. But do you see yourself kind of taking on another massive challenge in the future?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do Kilimanjaro with the vest on, and I might just do other ones. But with the vest on, just for irony's sake at this point. But I think I will just chase big things. And that's kind of what I'm working on. But we have like a few ideas. Me and Brandon we go back and forth, and we're planning a couple things. But I'm gonna give myself enough time to mentally get right before just like going in. And because I thought of something and I was like, you know what, well, we could do this next year, like same time, we'll start in March next year and do it. And not a good idea mentally to do. So we're gonna give some time. But the next thing, yeah, I mean, I just think I'd like to look at what I do as more like just like adventure, just adventure stuff, man. I want to go chase these big things, raise more money for charity. And so we have a couple of things in mind. But until then, man, we're just going to keep training and start having fun with this stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Me and you getting back into a season of just like having fun with it, bro.
Got to,
Is
man. Life's too
it's
short,
exciting.
man.
100%, 100%. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you. It was great to hear your story and your trek. And I can't wait to see, you know, whatever it is that comes next. I'm sure it'll be big, and it's always a pleasure to watch your journey, man. How can we continue to support you? Can we still donate to the human trafficking effort? What does that look like?
Yeah, so if you go all my social media, it's at Andrew M. Linder for YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And then the link piertopark.com, Pierto park.com, and the link's still open. People can still donate. It's still all the money goes to Sisters Rising Worldwide, the charity that fights human trafficking across the world. So yeah, it's amazing stuff. And you can also, there's a link there that shows you all the things that they do, where your money's going. So it's a great cause, great organization, and keep helping people.
Amazing. You're an amazing human being, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Chase. Appreciate it, man.
All right, that's the pod. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please do us a favor and subscribe, like, comment, share, all of the above. We're trying to reach more people who are interested in that casually ambitious lifestyle, and you're going to help us do it. Thank you so much. Again, we appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one.